Man, ache ni manze.
가이사가 저는 아주 지금 다음날 하나 게이사 하시고.
Yes, how are you? Welcome. Thank you so much. Welcome again, and thank you for being with us. I'm hoping that you are having already a good program, because you have been here for 1 or 2 days. I hope that what UNIT is doing in Myanmar is also proving to be helpful and useful, and that we will do more in the future. Yeah? Thank you so much.
So this my
I think he's here, huh?
here.
Yeah. How are you? Very nice to meet you. Good afternoon. Welcome to our home.
Yes, I just need to get my number.
No, we've got roving mics. There's not enough mics.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I'll take your seat. I'll just say hello.
To get people to think that we can do something. Not everything, but something. Very nice to meet you. Welcome. How are you? You are ready?
Yeah,
Fine, no problem at all. Okay.
I would like to call attention to the panel.
Hey, how you going? See you. What do they want us to do with this? Alice, what do you want us to do?
Ladies and gentlemen, could we all start to take our seats? The high-level panel needs to start in a couple of minutes, so if everyone could take their seats, that'd be much appreciated.
Move it a bit.
Sio ni sawa? Sio kwa sawa.
They come here.
Wait for the press to go.
I think that makes start and ask the press.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. If the members of the media could step aside for us just while we get things underway, please. If you've got what you need. Thank you very much. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the high-level panel on the illegal trade in wildlife. Alongside the trafficking of drugs, arms, and people, it's worth $213 billion a year, the illegal trade in wildlife. And conservationists, all of us here today, are convinced that the only way to stop this is to come together and try and make change. Today, we're going to get into how we're going to do that. 100,000 elephants were killed here in Africa last year. Sorry, between 2012 and 2015. Rhinos under huge pressure. Rare species, great apes, pangolins, rosewood. It's a long list and it's a huge challenge. Now, we're very lucky to have a fantastic panel before us today. I will introduce them shortly, but before I do so, and just while you're thinking, this is a panel including the African Union, the EU, Vietnam, Indonesia, Kenya, Myanmar, and CITES, a great range of people from a great range of countries and organizations who can really, I think, get to the core of what we're trying to achieve today and make some real progress. But before we go any further, I'd like to introduce Akeem Steiner, the Executive Director of the United Nations Environment Programme and the Under Secretary General of the UN. Please, if you could take the podium.
There we are, second button. Thank you very much, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. To fill this room at this moment, on this occasion, with this particular campaign being launched here, is a journey that I think many of us have been looking forward to, that we in the United Nations system have been mandated 2 years ago at the first United Nations Environment Assembly, then through the General Assembly resolution, and also the Secretary General's call that the United Nations agencies join forces in helping to, first of all, help the world understand what is actually happening to our wildlife, but more importantly, to focus in particular on this issue of the illegal trade in wildlife. You've already heard the numbers. We can express them in terms of the number of threatened species, in terms of the economic value lost, in terms of the money being used to engineer conflict. At the end of the day, it speaks to something that will only change if we can get literally the whole world engaged in this. Because the illegal trade in wildlife, like every criminal activity, thrives in a world that either does not know, does not care, or does not stop it. That is why the partnership that we are launching here, and in the presence of this very distinguished panel, you can see that this is a world coming together. And we in the United Nations Environment Programme, across the United Nations family, with my colleague John Scanlon from the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime Control, UNDP, and many other sister agencies, organizations joining this Wild for Life campaign is something that you don't need to be powerful. You don't need a lot of money. You just need to, first of all, care, and secondly, make it personal. My role here today is simply to thank those who have made this campaign come about. And it is not only those who took decisions in UNEA and the General Assembly, it is the thousands of people out there who care, who have made us realize that this is not just a policing or legal responsibility, it is something that speaks to every one of us on this planet. The illegal trade in wildlife just got very personal, and that is the message from here today in Nairobi through the many, many partners who will join this campaign to every citizen on the world. Thank you for being here, thank you for caring, and above all, thank you for making this personal, because then it will also start to change what is now happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Akeem Steiner, and I think we can dim the lights and show a little film for the launch of the Wild for Life campaign. How are we doing up there? That looks good. I've disappeared. Thanks very much. Thank you. We can put the lights up, please. Is my microphone working? Yes, I think it is. Well, I suppose first of all I should tell you who I am. I'm the BBC's Africa correspondent based here in Nairobi, fortunate enough to cover the whole of sub-Saharan Africa. Over the last few months, we've been doing a huge project looking at wildlife, illegal wildlife trade, about elephants and about poaching, tackling this problem from the source to the market. Perhaps if I tell you a few of the places we went, it might give you a framework for some of the issues we're going to touch upon today. We started off our journey in Garamba National Park, one of the oldest national parks in Africa in the north of the Democratic Republic of Congo. It's a ground zero for elephant poaching. 95% of the elephants have gone from there over the last 30 years. The guards, there are a few dozen, they have poor weapons, they have poor training. Criminals, militia, gangs are killing the rangers and are killing the elephants in huge numbers. In Kenya, we followed the money. We met a poacher. We met middlemen. We discovered how it was that corruption is oiling the wheels every step of the way, on the way from other countries outside Kenya through to the market in Asia. We explore enforcement. Kenya is doing a great deal in terms of changing its laws, in terms of trying to prevent the poachers from killing the animals. But we've got to tackle it both at the source and at the market, at the other end of that. And that's a very important part of what we'll be talking about today. Also, human-wildlife conflict is a huge issue. With climate change, with a loss of habitat, with a huge increase of population in Africa and around the world, those habitats are going to come under even more pressure. And that means the wildlife needs to be valuable, and not just for its skin, for its tusks, for its live trafficking. It needs to be valuable to the communities, to the people who live alongside those animals. And people have different approaches to this. Different countries have different ways of trying to stop the illegal trade in wildlife. But I think the key thing to get out of this, and if I was doing my day job as being a journalist here, I'd want people to be arguing amongst themselves, trying to get some headlines out of how it is they disagree. But this isn't my day job today, it's my day off. And today is about how much more in common so many different countries have with regard to conservation, with regard to preventing the illegal trade in wildlife. So without any further ado, let me introduce to you the panelists who we have in front of us today. We have Her Excellency, Madam Rhoda Peace Tumusime from the AUC. She's the AU Commissioner for Rural Economy and Agriculture. His Excellency, Mr. Carmenu Vela, European Commissioner for Environment. We have Her Excellency, Dr. Sita Nurumbaya, the Minister of Environment and Forestry in Indonesia. From Kenya, we have the Cabinet Secretary for Environment, Natural Resources. That is Professor Judy Wakungu. His Excellency, Mr. Oun Win, Minister of Environment from Myanmar. And last but not least, we have Mr. John Scanlon, Secretary General of the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Flora and Fauna, CITES. And of course, this is a very important year, just 4 months away from the CITES Convention in Johannesburg. So, just so you know, and as the panel know, we're splitting this into 3 sections, about 15 minutes each. We will be taking a couple of people from the floor who we've selected to join this debate. We're going to start off by looking at what's working and how. Then we're going to look at how we're going to stop the demand for the ivory, for the animals, for the timber. And finally, we're going to ask how the whole world can address this crisis. And before we start, I must say, as a warning on time, this isn't hard talk. I'm not going to interrupt you, but I'd like people to be as brief as they can. We want to try and get as many points out of this as we can and try and get a real sense of an outcome from this. We want to be able to report back from this discussion today and say, we've decided this, we think this, and we're all together in it. Now, I'm going to start us off, first of all, I think, by turning, seeing as we're in Kenya, to Professor Judy Wakungu. Professor Judy, if you could grab a mic. Basically, I'd like you to start off by giving us a sense of what Kenya... Oh, let's make sure it's working first of all, before I put you on the spot. No joy? Let's try this one. Testing 1, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope, not that one. How about this one? Testing. You got it working? Brilliant. Maybe so you could just make sure they all work. Professor Judy, if you could start off by explaining to us where Kenya was, where it's got to now, and what you've done that has brought the poaching numbers down, what you're doing to prevent the trafficking of things like ivory through this country.
Thank you very much. I think Kenya has made a lot of progress in the last 3 years. The first thing that our administration did in 2013-2014 was to enact a new law, and that law has very high penalties. We think some of the highest penalties in the world. We also put together various law enforcement agencies, interagency cooperation between the police, between the Kenya Revenue Authority, the Kenya Wildlife Service, the Kenya Forest Service, and other agencies. We knew very well that we had the challenge of also being a transit country, particularly the port of Mombasa and occasionally the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. So again, we improved our surveillance in those particular areas. We also improved our intelligence, not only nationally, but also regionally and internationally as well. That has shown tremendous results. The level of poaching has gone down because now it's a deterrent. We are also after the major kingpins that we were aware of and have since dealt with them. But we've also been working with our neighbors to not only improve surveillance and intelligence, but also prosecutions. We've worked very closely with our judiciary, because that was also a weak gap, to let them understand that these are economic crimes and that they must enforce the punitive laws that we've put in place. So these are some of the things that we've been doing. Thank you.
You've still got a long way to go, though, haven't you?
We still have a long way to go. These are international syndicates. You know, these are just not your average thieves. These are international syndicates. They're very well organized. And as you said in the introduction, they're involved in all manner of contraband, not just ivory and rhino horn.
Thank you very much indeed. Perhaps I'll turn now to His Excellency Un Win from Myanmar. If you could give us a sense of the challenges that you're facing.
Thank you. Myanmar has been under the military regimes for 48 or 49 years. So, but although we are under the military regimes, the poachings and also timber, illegal timber loggings are not common in the 1980s. After 1990s, we have a lot of poachings, also illegal timber cases. Now, we still have firstly, we have a lack of staff and understaff. Forestry, most of the forestry staffs are trained for the conserving the forest and also fighting the illegal logging and also illegal animal poachings. However, so we are trying our best to combat this kind of thing. But the first thing is law enforcement. We still need, and also we have understrength. According to data, the one forester has to manage 8,000 to 12,000 acres of the forest area. It's really challenging for us. And also, we also need some kind of physical inputs like, vehicle, transportations.
Yeah.
Also, but we have what called the forest arms, but we are not able to control all these things in the one time. So we still need a lot of the staff, also the participation of the people, and also the awareness. So many people living in our countries, I would say that 70% are living in the rural area. So people are obviously the poor. So poverty is also one of the causes to do this kind of things. So, and also, we also have some of the international cooperation like Interpol and also ASEAN WAN, so on and so forth. Well, I would say that the poachings and also illegal logging are still going on to a certain extent.
So, the problems that Myanmar are facing are freshwater turtles, tortoises, pangolins, teak rosewood, but also this idea of being a country that is a transit country for the movement. It seems that the movement from country to country is really significant here, and relationships between countries to try and prevent that is something, Professor Judy, you picked up on there. If I could turn now to Her Excellency Madam Rhoda Peace Tumusimi from the African Union. Could you tell me what you're doing as a regional body to try and bring together, and I mentioned those disagreements between all the different countries about how best this should be dealt with. What are you doing to try and bring all this together and take a united front?
Thank you very much. First of all, let me say that 25th May is Africa Day. It is marked, and today is a holiday for African Union. So today is 25th May, and we are here now at a global side event focusing on illegal trade of wildlife, which is extremely important for Africa. So it is really a moment for us in Africa. It's a great moment, and would like to ask you really to be with us in the struggle. I know the whole world is also suffering the same way. When I was coming here, I read an article in flight. It was saying that the Gravy's zebra population here in Kenya in 1980s was about 15,000, and now it has gone down to just 2,500. What does that tell us? It tells us that the heads of state, the African leadership must come together and fight this scourge. It is really very, very bad. I'm not going to go into all the details, but let me say that Africa has decided to work together. It has decided to call upon all the member states in Africa to rally around a common approach, to have a common strategy which has been adopted in 2015 in an AU summit. This is very, very critical. So what we have done since then, we have come together, bring together the countries in Africa to think, to plan, and to see how we can fight this illegal world trade. It is terrible in Africa. It is really very, very bad. It is affecting the socio-economic development. It is affecting the people who look after the world flora and fauna. It is as bad as it is. And you know, in Africa, under the African Union, we have a common approach to issues. Like we did agree on unity of purpose when we are discussing the issues related to climate change. So we rallied around one common purpose. So for this as well, Africa has decided to work together. In the strategy which has been developed, we have to look at the coordination of the member states. We have to look at the international community. We have to look at how the countries can work together. You have heard the minister from Kenya. They are working around with the neighbors around. We have the regional economic communities. So all those are within the common strategy which has been adopted. Now at the country level, we are also working with them to put in place a mechanism for having a country strategy which is developed within the framework of the continental strategy. This is how the coordinated effort can be able to deliver on what we want, especially with regard to trade in trade in wildlife, trade in timber, trade in ivory. Today in the magazine, in the paper in Kenya, they are talking about having arrested somebody who is in court for ivory. This is how the leadership has decided to put themselves together to ensure that they really deliver on this scourge which is really ravaging the continent.
And that's, on that point, if I can pick up on that point, sorry to interrupt, if I can pick up on that point and perhaps bring in at this stage Dion Nell, who's the WWF Director of Global Conservation. Dion, can you give us a little bit of a sense of, I suppose briefly, how bad things are, but what are the key areas, as far as you're concerned, to try and prevent this illegal trafficking of wildlife?
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. So I think a lot has been done, and there's been a lot of commitments that we've seen recently through this organization as well as the UN General Assembly. To us, I think the key thing is really moving on to the drivers of organized crime and the drivers of illegal wildlife trade. And so a couple of things that we think are important. First is integration. The minister from Kenya spoke about this. Integrating this as an issue that touches social issues, it touches the economic development of those countries, and addressing this as an integrated issue within that country. The second is really addressing corruption and financial crime. The UNODC released a report this week which showed that corruption is really at the center of illegal wildlife trade. And we need to get serious about this, and a number of countries are getting serious about this. The UN also has a number of bodies that can deal with this. The UN Convention Against Corruption, the UN Office on Transnational Organized Crime. There are various bodies that can deliver on this. And then finally, I think we need to integrate this all within the UN system. So having a special envoy within the UN system that can integrate, that can ensure regular reporting, that can ensure that we have accountability, collective accountability about these issues would be key issues that we need to take forward. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Well, just picking up on that, I'm going to turn now to John Scanlon, the Secretary General of CITES here. John, you just come back from Vienna from a UNODC Crime Commission meeting. Tell me what the outcome of that has been.
Thanks, Alistair. And yes, yesterday in Vienna at the UN 25th meeting of the Crime Commission, they launched the first ever World Wildlife Crime Report, a report that's similar to the annual drugs report. Now, it's a fascinating report. This is based on hard data and analysis, and UNODC pulled together details of 164,000 seizures since around 2000 and analysed that. And what they found is that there were 7,000 different species in illegal trade at one time or another, and that people from 80 nationalities were associated with this illicit trade. And what they found is this is a global problem. We quite often talk about what's happening here in Africa, but it is a global problem. We are seeing all countries implicated in this, either as source, transit or destination countries. In Oceania, a problem with illicit trade in corals. In Europe and North America, reptiles. In Central and South America, birds. And then in Asia and Africa, mammals. So this is a truly global phenomenon. But what it also found is that the illicit trade is being driven, the high-scale illicit trade is being driven by transnational organised criminal groups. And as was just been said, corruption lies behind this right across the illegal supply chain. The report interestingly pointed out the importance of CITES, because CITES imposes legal obligations, binding legal obligations on source, transit and destination countries. If you're listed under CITES, if a species is listed under CITES, right across the illegal supply chain, you are obliged to intercept it. But we set the rules that the criminals try to evade. And the criminals that are trying to evade it are the transnational organised criminal groups and the people who are being corrupted. And that's why we have to have the UN Convention Against Transnational Organised Crime and the UN Convention Against Corruption as key players in this fight, because that's the only way we're going to win it. And I must say, we've got them on board, we're working together. As Akim said at the start, there is a global collective effort underway. That's how we're going to win.
Okay, John, thanks very much indeed. Well, we touched there on this issue of the market, who's actually buying these products, and that is a very, very important part in trying to prevent the animals from being taken or being killed at source. So at this point, I'm going to turn now to Vietnam, if I can, and if I could bring in, where's Vietnam? Oh, sorry, Vung Tien Mai. Sorry, I hope I got your name correct. You've got a problem. You, like China, are a big source country for the illegal traffic of wildlife. What lessons are you learning? What are you putting in place to try and prevent it? And how can the organizations assembled here today help you?
Yeah, thank you very much. So we, like other countries, for example, Kenya, Vietnam, recently we also get some progress to combat the illegal wildlife trade. Just this Monday, Vietnam have seized more than 500 kg of ivory on the illegal smuggling to the north border of Vietnam. And we got the high commitment from the president. On the third day, our president and US president have joined announcement that Vietnam and US commit to combat the illegal wildlife trade. And we have amended new penal code. In that new penal code, those people who smuggling illegal wildlife trade will be penalty more than up to 15 years in jail. So, but we think that the enforcement, the commitment is not enough. And we think that the demand is a big issue. If we reduce the demand, we will reduce the supply. So
the key thing, though, is to obviously have enforcement, but also to try and prevent people from having these products and wanting them. What are you doing to try and tackle that?
To tackle the...
To try and stop people from wanting the products in the first place.
Yeah. I think that as I mentioned that besides the enforcement, we need to raising awareness of people not using the illegal product of wildlife. So recently we worked with NGOs in Vietnam to conduct a number of campaigns to reduce the demand on the ivory and rhino horn also. And our message have reached to 20 million of Vietnamese people in the last 3 years. So we continue to conduct several campaigns in this year and next 2 years.
It is amazing the impact that campaigns can have. We've seen a lot in China recently of some of the biggest names going on social networks and pushing that point to try and just make, as was done with fur, making it something that people no longer want as a commodity, something that is no longer something you're proud of showing off, and in that way trying to prevent it. I'll turn now to Indonesia. And Sitir Nabea, the Minister of Environment and Forestry in Indonesia, what are you doing to tackle the problem specific to you? And how can global organizations help assist you in doing that?
Yeah, actually in Indonesia, the wildlife crime is costing about 700 million US a year. And what we do with that is that we started first with the amendment of the law because since 1990 we have actually the law for biodiversity, but the penalty is too small because we gave penalty only 70,000 maximum, as well as the in jail 2 to 6 months only. Then we do the amendment for that one to improve the punishment, and we improve the quarantine because at the former time it's only going to custom, but now we would like to have it improved under the bodies under president. So we improve the institution. And we also established the new Director General for Law Enforcement, and we implement the multi-doors wildlife crime itself, the environment law, and corruption, as well as the money laundering and those things. And we try to have a coordination, let's say under ASEAN Wildlife Enforcement Network, CITES, APEC, UNODC, etc. And we coordinate internally with police and attorney general. And in our country, police has assigned a special license officer for this wildlife crime. So actually very active on that one. And we continue working together with custom in the seaport as well as in the airport. And we try now to register the illegally owned and giving them the license if they would like to have it in the domestic. And we will take them back if they don't taking care the wildlife well.
So there's a real variety of things that you're trying to do together within
For
the
international, we are requiring because the problem is with the destination countries, the end buyer countries. We appeal not to buy or not to import illegally because we got quite a lot of problem with that one. Thank you,
Minister, thank you very much indeed for your thoughts there. Obviously bringing up some of the issues where countries do disagree over the way that, that wildlife trade, legal wildlife trade should be stopped. But as I said in the introduction here, it's more about collaboration. It's about seeing the things that unite the variety of different countries, which is to stop the illegal trade of wildlife. And I think everyone's in agreement on that. But I think what's important perhaps is to broaden this in terms of the regional bodies and how they can help. We mentioned there ASEAN, other organizations that can work to really make a difference and try and put things in place. So I'm going to bring in now His Excellency Kamenu Vella from the European Commission for Environment. Could you tell me, in practical terms, we're going to start getting into some nitty-gritty here. We've heard some really good points about what's being done in individual countries, but what actually has to be done to start banging heads and making sure that countries are working together properly to try and stop this?
Yes, I think countries do have to work together. We don't have any other option. We don't have any other choice. First of all, because we all acknowledge the gravity of this crime. It is a crime which is threatening nature, it's threatening biodiversity, it's threatening wildlife. It is also socially threatening a number of local communities, and economically it is also threatening the economy of mainly of the source countries. So we are facing a big, I wouldn't call it a challenge, a big criminal crisis, and we need a big commitment. And in order to win over these criminals, I don't think that any country single-handedly can do it. We need global action. This is a global issue. We need global solutions with a global action. The only way that we can fight and win over these criminals is to act together. If we cannot beat them, I cannot imagine that any syndicate is more powerful than the joint effort of all the countries with all the commitment that we see in each and every conference, meeting, discussions that we have. There is a bit of good news. Yes, progress has been made. Progress has been made in Kenya and most of the African countries, but a lot has got to be done as well, even from those like the European Union, which is mostly a contributor towards. Because why? I'm saying this because we need to understand what are the real challenges which these countries are facing, because we might have one perception about their challenges, but when we discuss with them, we find out that their real challenges are probably different from what we were perceived. And this is one of the topics that I was discussing this morning with our colleague Judy. We talk about strategies, we talk about action plans, we talk about all this, but strategies and plans are not going to get us anywhere unless we embark on real implementation. I think implementation is the key, because otherwise we will continue discussing, we will continue committing. Let's not forget that on wildlife trafficking, we are all committed even through the Sustainable Development Goals. So let's stop discussing, the commitment is there globally, and let's start acting and implementing together. And someone, I think WWF, mentioned the UN system in improving the coordination. I think that is one of the best tools that we can possibly have, and I think that the United Nations system is, if not one of the if not the best, one of the best tools to coordinate all our different efforts.
And how does that work in with the African Union? How are the relationships between the EU and the AU going? If you could remark on that briefly and then pass the microphone over to your left. First of all, if you could make a comment before. No problem.
Okay. As I indicated, the political commitment is available, both at the African Union Commission and also the EU Commission. Secondly, when we are developing the continental strategy, we worked very, very closely with our partners. And the EU has been very instrumental in putting together resources to make it available to most of our development undertakings. And they have also now committed themselves to this one. So what my colleague commissioner is saying is that definitely we need the collaboration. It's very critical. But then also we need to move into implementation. This has been agreed on. In fact, we are going to have part of the process of implementation. We shall be having a regional strategy discussion in Senegal. This one is also very critical, and EU is also with us, plus other members of the partners whom we work with. Then the UNEP has been very, very instrumental. In fact, it has been a catalyst. It stimulated all the discussions, and also it brought it up to the heads of state level. So the partners are so critical, both international, you can have enforcement, you can have good governance, but you need everybody to be on the same page. This is what I can say.
Thank you very much indeed. I think I'll just go across now to the Norwegian ambassador, Victor Roneberg. Norway, a big contributor to this issue. Tell us your thoughts on how you actually are able to bring this together, to cross borders, to make a real impact as countries coming together.
Well, as there are close links between illegal trade in wildlife and other forms of environmental crimes like illegal logging, illegal waste disposal, and even illegal fishing, we believe that we should work more closely together, also here in the UNEP, to address these challenges. And of course, we should work in close cooperation with other international organizations and affected countries. And as we heard today, there are also strong links between illegal trade in wildlife and other forms of environmental crimes on the one side, and transnational criminal groups dealing in arms, drugs, and even terror on the other side. And again, we believe UNEP has much to contribute, also when it comes to these broader and certainly very serious issues.
So what you're talking about here is that there are obviously many more strings to this than just the wildlife element to it. Would you like to continue?
Yeah, well, that's what we think. We think this is kind of closely knitted together, and we are up against very, very serious forces, and I think we have to use all the tools at our disposal.
And how do we do that in terms of bringing countries together, do you think? How do we encourage that process?
Well, I think there are many organizations, both government and private NGOs, that certainly we can link up much closer together. There are many areas where we can learn from each other and certainly see that we get the best practices.
Okay, I'll turn to John Scanlon now. Thank you very much indeed, Ambassador. From CITES, could someone pass a microphone over there, please? Just picking up on that point about bringing different groups together, how is that working from your perspective, and what could be done to make that work better?
Right, well, I think it's working extremely well. If we look in November 2010, we created the International Consortium on Combating Wildlife Crime, CITES, Interpol, UN Office of Drugs and Crime, the World Bank and the World Customs Organization. Just had its 5th anniversary. Let's give you a sense of the sort of work going on there. We supported the largest ever cross-continent enforcement effort in relation to wildlife. We had over 60 countries across 4 continents all work together, source, transit, destination, to tackle illicit wildlife trafficking. Largest coordinated effort ever. We've produced an analytic toolkit on wildlife and forest crime. 19 countries are now using that toolkit to look at where the gaps are in the justice system that they need to fill if they're going to deal with this. If we look at the support that's being given to countries to do things such as use modern forensics, to make wildlife crime a serious crime, that's defined, 4 years imprisonment or more. There are many things underway that are very practical. What we've seen through the UN Secretary General, and this is a product of it, is the whole UN system's come together. This part of it is a collective effort led very much by UNEP, but there are many other things underway. UNDP has been taking a lead with respect to alternative livelihood issues. We've seen UNODC treating this as a serious crime. So I would say there is a global collective effort underway. It involves UN, non-UN, non-government sector, governments. What we need to do is go harder and faster, but we're certainly on the right track.
Okay, Judy, I'm going to bring you in here, Cabinet Secretary from here in Kenya. Obviously, we touched there on the idea of value of conservancies. What is it that Kenya is doing, which is an example, do you think, to other countries as to ways of trying to give value to the products in their destination countries, where they're coming from?
First of all, what Kenya is doing in terms of working with conservancies, if I heard you correctly, is to handle this big problem that we have. And the biggest problem I have with wildlife conservation is winning space for wildlife. You know, we talk about the poaching and so on, which is a huge problem. But really, for me here in Kenya, is finding space. Our population is growing. And that is also now affecting our conservancy, our national parks, which are being encroached on, and also our reserves, which are being encroached on. One of the values that we have appreciated here in Kenya is that once you engage communities in conservation and they understand the value of wildlife and that they can actually improve their livelihoods through tourism and other excursions, they then value the wildlife more than they say their livestock and so on. So through programs such as the NRT, which is the Northern Rangelands Trust, we have encouraged communities to create their own conservancies, which they're doing. So now in Kenya we have over 200 conservancies, and this is now allowing us to get first the space for the wildlife. Communities now become the frontline protection of that particular wildlife because they appreciate how it improves their livelihoods. Let me just touch on one other issue, which of course is also of importance to us, which is raising awareness in the destinations or the demand countries. Kenya has taken this very seriously, and by seriously I mean at the highest level. In August 2013, our head of state met with the head of state of China during the state visit there. This issue was discussed. In 2014, I also signed an MOU with my counterpart in China, touching on issues of wildlife conservation, raising awareness about using ivory and rhino horn, and then also we have an MOU on forestry. So these are some of the things that we're doing. 2014, the Premier of China visited Kenya, and one of the field visits he made was to actually go to the ivory burning site in Nairobi National Park, and this has contributed hugely to raising awareness in some of the demand countries or the destinations.
So as well as obviously bringing in larger bodies, it's also about those key bilateral relationships between source countries specifically and demand countries, if you don't mind me putting it that way. I'll turn again back to Vietnam and Vung Tien Mai. What relationships do you have, or what hope do you have for building relationships with countries like Kenya, or for example South Africa, of course, because it's rhino horn which is perhaps the biggest issue for you in Vietnam?
So in terms of international cooperation, for example, last year we have a dialogue with Kenya in enforcement agency in Hanoi. We are going to develop an MOU, and we decide that the MOU should be at the government level. So we are on process to finalize the MOU and try to sign the MOU. And we also have a relationship with other transit country and destination country like China. Last year we also signed MOU with cited MA of China and also the Czech Republic, where we sometimes we see the illegal transit of the rhino horn and from Africa to Czech Republic to Vietnam. And also we have MOU with other countries like Indonesia and South Africa, as you know, and neighbor countries like Laos and Cambodia. And just inform you that we will hold the third conference on illegal wildlife trade on November, and we hope that all of you have joined with us to commit to combat the illegal wildlife trade.
Fantastic, thank you very much. I'll turn now again back to Europe. Kamanu Vela, what more can you do, and what more can other countries do in relation to you to try and get a better grip on this?
Yes, I think that first and foremost, we need to engage with the local community more, because they play a very important role. In this, I was impressed a few weeks ago by the all-female Black Mambas patrol unit, which during a conference in The Hague. I think one of the best way forwards, if we can turn wildlife into a sustainable, self-sustainable, even economically, economic activity, because then that is really turning a cost, which is almost like an infrastructural cost now, into an asset. We have to increase our efforts to curb demand. Everyone spoke about this, and I think mostly we are focusing on illegal trafficking. If need be, we have to go also on illegal possession of these items. Why not? I mean, if we can be more ambitious to get better results, we have to know these markets, we have to talk to these countries, and we have to make sure that the governments of these countries are making it less enticing for trafficking. Enforcement, I already mentioned, mostly on the ground. We talk about the rangers, very often even risking their own lives. But I think each and every one of us should be a ranger in his or in her own country. Okay, the most important are the rangers on the ground, but we should support them by being a secondary ranger in our own country.
But how do you accelerate the cooperation? How do you change that and make it move quicker?
I think
because
we
this
can
is an
also
emergency.
accelerate. This morning I also discussed, because the European Union is one of the major contributors financially. We I would say we invested, right, because this is an investment, not a spend, some 500 million euros in the last 25, 30 years. If, apart from funding with money, we can even sit down and discuss how that money is employed, how we can go for a better output, I think we can work better and we can get more efficient output. And we have to get, I think, to work harder against the corruption. Let's not forget that this crime syndicate is linking one criminal activity with the other. I think It's not just my opinion, but wildlife trafficking, drug trafficking, arms trafficking, human trafficking is all linked. So I think the effort here should be much bigger than it is now.
Thank you very much. Siti Naber from Indonesia. What relationships are you building, and what more could be done to improve the communications and that working together for what quite specific differences that different countries have over different challenges?
Yeah, considering my experience within a year, this is very much involvement of the communities and CSO. And I feel very much encouraged by the CSO and communities for this wildlife awareness because they do it in petition, in memos to the ministers, in social media and those things. In Indonesia, about 139 million people using internet, playing with social media and those things, and they work quite well for us to support information and also awareness to the others, and they did criticize each other for that one. And I believe it's gonna be good if we could organize them internationally. So this is my experience, and we appreciate very much for this CSO and the community. Thank you, Al.
Thank you. Un Win from Myanmar. What about you? I mean, you've got a lot on your plate at the moment. This is a key part of it. What relationships are you hoping to build? What can be done from your experience to try and move things on faster to get better cooperation?
Yeah. First of all, I will say that combating illegal trade of wildlife and also timber is the highest priority given by the Myanmar government. So we have a cooperation with Interpol, also ASEAN, and also some other international association with us. So we also need to raise awareness of these kind of things among the people, and also we have to get information, data from the other countries, like a source from the China, India, Thailand, and also we need to the enforce law. We need law enforcement. So and also we need some kind of workshop or seminar to be held in the country concerning how to combat this kind of crimes and illegal logging and wildlife trades. Mm-hmm. So that is the main reason that we need some kind of more international associations concerned with this kind of combating the illegal trades. So and also we have to also join with other associations from let's say from China, also Thailand, India, because these three countries are very close to our country. So we also need some kind of help from this country.
Okay, Madam, thank you very much. Madam Peace Tumisimi, if you could pick up from here, what about the AU and relations with China over bigger issues, like organizations representing countries engaging more with someone like China, Vietnam, the destination countries? Is that something that you are able to do or to encourage through the processes you have?
You are really right, because demand stimulates supply. So if we have really to work on this illegal trade, we must engage. And AU is already discussing with China. China is a key partner to African Union. We are in discussion, and they are also responding. So hopefully that most of the countries which are also encouraging demand, supply, I think all those we have to engage with them. It's a strategy, it's a good way, it's a good one. And within the African Union strategy, it is indicated that cooperation must be looked at, partnership must be looked at, and implementation. And that's one way of doing that.
Are we talking about campaigns perhaps as well? Public campaigns that can go across nations, that can try and help make everyone aware of what's going on?
The African Union has got a good conduit for that. And we are also working on advocacy, the advocacy strategy, which is going to push the implementation because it must increase awareness. We must get the communities, as some of the ministers have indicated, understand the importance. But also we have to look at the transit countries. The transit countries are extremely important because we cannot just look at the beginning and at the end. We have to involve each and every one of us. So unity in purpose is the way to go for us. And African Union is ready. The heads of states are committed. When we did meet in Brazzaville, the turn-up was very, very good, even at the highest level. It was a technical meeting, but heads of state came and attended to show commitment. So leadership in this is very key.
Okay, great. I think we're starting to wind up. I'd just like to come to each of the panelists, and please keep this as short as you can as we go through here. It's about how you will support this campaign to be Wild for Life that's being launched today. Just so you know a little bit more about it, there's a great quiz online you can go on, and it asks you various personal questions, and you answer them, and it comes out with your spirit animal. It's worth going on there and seeing which animal you are. It gives a little information about it, and it's part of this whole campaign. So, John, if I can start with you from this end here, from CITES, what do you think is the most important thing that should be going forward to help this Wild for Life campaign?
Well, there are three pillars to what we're trying to do here. One is law enforcement, including combating corruption. Secondly is looking at alternate livelihoods for local people. And third is demand reduction. Now, this campaign we're looking at here is about demand reduction, but this is only one part of a campaign. This is a mass campaign. It's appealing to the masses. We also need very targeted campaigns in the next phase because the demand for illicitly traded ivory is not the same as the demand for illicitly traded rhino horn or pangolin scales or rosewood. For example, with ivory, the surge in ivory has come from speculation. That's the primary driver. If you look at rhino horn, the primary driver has not been traditional uses of rhino horn. It has been new uses. Very clever entrepreneurial people marketing rhino horn for benefits it never had in traditional medicine, like a cancer cure. That's not part of traditional medicine. These are snake oil salesmen, very entrepreneurial. So what we have to do is deal with all three pillars. This campaign's great, it's going to the masses, and then we're going to hone in and really target very specifically what is driving the illicit market for ivory, rhino horn, pangolin, etc.
Thank you very much. Sitir Naber from Indonesia, what are you going to do to support this campaign to be Wild for Life?
Yeah, first our president has been announcing for the conservation and for the wildlife conservation. And he gave all the examples regularly. Mm-hmm. Every month he released the animals and those things to the nature. And also we involve the business community and the foundations and civil society organization together, and they declare and do things. So in my experience, we just together, we just gathered them and we worked together. I think that's the very effective way for engaging people.
Excellent, thank you. Kamane Valu from the EC.
Yes, well, we have three priorities, and I'm very much looking forward to working with our African and Asian colleagues on these three priorities, which are prevention. We have to reduce demand, we have to cut off supplies, we have to fight corruption lines, and we have to engage with locals. The second is enforcement, because we all know that rules and regulations and plans are not enough. We have to take strong action and we have to take fast action. And lastly, global partnership. We have to take our efforts across the source, transit and market countries as well. The European Union has a huge global network of trade, diplomacy, development support, and we will use this as part of our tools.
Please, Tumisini, how do we get this convergence of views here? How will you support this campaign, Wild for Life?
This is a commitment. I would like to say that the African Union provides a good platform for ensuring that there is proper coordination on the continent. There is a follow-up on implementation, for example, of the strategy which has been put in place. Enforcement and compliance has to be involved, has to be part and parcel of the awareness and also of the implementation strategy. We have to look at the issues related to partnership. We have to look at community involvement through governance and ensuring that everything is done in order to combat the illegal wildlife and trade, wildlife trade.
Thanks very much. Onwen from Myanmar,
Yeah.
what were you going to do to support this campaign?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to say that the improving the livelihood of the people is also important, as this gentleman mentioned here, that because if people are very poor, they were not afraid of anything to do. So I think that the improving the livelihood and all is also important, and also some amendments of the forest law and also wildlife law is to be done, and also the empowerment, the enforcement, law enforcement also very important, and also to keep press on the source country, not to allow them to buy this kind of tea from our country.
So it needs to go both ways.
Yeah.
Thank you. Julia Kungu, what are you going to do to support this campaign?
Well, personally, I've already taken the quiz. I took the quiz.
What are you?
I'm an elephant. But because of the convening power of this campaign, I really see it as the vehicle for demand, not reduction, but demand eradication. That is what I hope we will be able to achieve with this campaign.
Thanks very much. Vung Tien Rai, what are you going to do for this campaign?
I think that besides strengthen enforcement and capacity building, we will work with the Ministry of Education and Training to develop a curriculum on the wildlife conservation to train at primary school and high school in Vietnam. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Almost there. One more speaker to come, just to wind things up. For me, I think that was a great debate. I think there's lots of great issues that have come out from there, and you do get the sense from what people are saying that there really is a convergence of views here, that people are working very much towards finding this ground across country borders. But perhaps I can call on the Deputy Executive Director of UNEP to step forward. Ibrahim Chow, could you give us your thoughts before we close?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. I have heard, I see a lot of commitment in the panel here. I see a lot of energy in the room. This is really great to have all of you here in this room to discuss such an important issue as illegal trade in wildlife. 3 years ago, in this compound, it would not have been possible. 3 years ago, it would not have been possible to have this discussion in UNEP. So it is really great to have all of you here. I have heard that we should have action at the national level, but we should also have action at the international level because we are dealing with illegal trade that is happening internationally. It cannot be tackled by individual countries. It cannot be tackled by individual institutions. It cannot be tackled by individual NGOs. So this campaign basically asks you to make it personal and ask you to work together. So it's everyone, everywhere, every time. So I would like to ask you to do two things with your hands, if you can. Not once, but twice. First of all, I would like to ask you to raise your hand if you agree to pledge to join the campaign to tackle the illegal trade in wildlife. Please raise your hands. I would like to have a picture of that. Thank you very much. So you have pledged today, and you all will, that you will join the campaign, and I will follow you on social media, not only in Indonesia, not only in Myanmar, not only in Brussels, but in Nairobi and in Mogadishu. Second ask, if you could join your hands with a wild round of applause to all the partners and I will list them before I ask you to upload. The partners in this campaign are UNEP, CITES, UNDP, UNODC, with co-sponsors the CMS Convention, the Convention on Migratory Species, UNICEF, the World Bank, Connect for Climate, the Global Environmental Facility, the GEF, some civil society organizations, US Wildlife Trafficking Alliance, Freelance, Save the Elephants, Traffic, a private sector organization, Dufour Cravole Zoo. I also would like you to thank all our goodwill ambassadors, UNEP goodwill ambassadors that have contributed to this. You have some of them here, and you have seen most of them in the video. And I also would like you to recognize the UNEP staff members that have worked extremely hard to organize this event and to organize this campaign. So if you agree, I would kindly ask you to rise with a wild round of applause for all of these institutions and organizations. Thank you. Thank you. Well, Alistair.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
I'm not done with you.
Oh, you're not done with me? Oh, okay.
I have to thank you very much for a wonderful moderation. We know you. Who doesn't know you? I'm sure they're all here for you, not for John Scanlon. If I can ask you also to pledge that you would do everything possible to not only continue your project in BBC, but actually to seek partnership and cooperation with other sister institutions in the media to actually expand the campaign. As John said, this is for everybody, it's for the mass. And we would like you to thank you first for being here. Thank you for the campaign, for the project, and thank you for the pledge that you are just going to make now.
We will certainly continue to push for some very, very important topic. I think we've covered a lot of ground today. Thank you very much indeed, everyone, for coming. Thank you very much to the esteemed panelists and those speaking from the floor. We have a question. Sorry, what do you want to ask me?
The question is that BBC has produced a report where they alleged they infiltrated all the illegal traders. To what extent are you putting this? To what use are you putting this report?
I think it's very important for people to be aware of exactly what the root causes of poaching, of trafficking are. And I think that the more we can shine a light on that, the more people like you are going to have to do something about it.
You protect the trader.
Thank you very much indeed, everyone. That ends the session. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much indeed, panelists. Thank you.
Very good.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. I want you to expose.
I know.